As a farmer in Warcraft, I am very proud. Introduction. www.zhaoshuyuan.com What do Chinese people believe is the source of all laws in the universe? So it is. As a human traveler, what is the source of Wanfa in Warcraft? It's a farmer. Without farmers, who will build it? Without farmers, who will develop and climb technology? Without farmers, how can there be the saying of heroes? In this Warcraft crusade https://www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Chapter 1. Encounters in the Forest. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Ha. Sweeping and throwing. Sweep and smash the ribs. Sweeping the lid and chopping the neck, a tall and upright figure was waving a thick and long wooden stick in the jungle. Upon closer inspection, there was a handsome man with black hair and pupils waving his stick, surrounded by a few wolf corpses and a few strands of blood on the stick, adding a lot of heroism to the man's figure. The man was killing these wild wolves, but his face remained serious as he watched the movement of the wolf pack surrounding him. Subsequently, the young man suddenly swept back and flashed a glimmer of blood in the air, which was the blood splattered from one side of the stick, sweeping a wolf that had just prepared to sneak forward and striking it to the ground. While being knocked down by a wooden stick and convulsing on the ground, the wolf's head, like an open bottle of cola, flowed horizontally on the ground with a pool of blood. And this strike also pushed back the other pack of wolves who were preparing to besiege later. Afterwards, there was a quiet confrontation for a while, and the man suddenly challenged him again. Strike at the belly of the wolf jumping into the air, fly the jumping wolf and fall to the side of the head wolf behind the pack. As the saying goes, if you work hard, it will eventually decline, and if you work hard, it will eventually run out. The man quickly adjusted his pace and stance, and with a shout of, "Ah!" he roared out his momentum. After capturing the pack of wolves, he charged forward and made another vertical slash, straight towards the skull that was standing in the pack before the exam. This strike instantly killed the wolf, and its sobs and convulsions before death once again greatly shattered the momentum of the wolf pack. From the start of the wolf pack siege to just 1 minute now, this man named Li Xing made 3 kills and displayed his own momentum. And after killing, he quickly adjusted his position to keep the wolf pack at a safe and killing distance from himself. Afterwards, as Li Xing followed the trend of using the emergency stick technique and combined it with corresponding steps, he killed and pushed back the wolf pack preparing to attack in front of him. In the blink of an eye, in just 15 minutes, the wolf pack had lost 1/3 of its members. As a result, the entire wolf pack became intimidated and unable to move forward. And the leader of the wolf pack behind, watching his companion who was knocked to the ground by his feet and convulsing from time to time. Looking at the tall human in front of him, he then took the opportunity to kill a wolf. He realized that his opponent in front of him was invincible, so he let out a long roar and led the wolf pack to retreat into the mountains and forests by the roadside. Watching the wolf pack quickly and orderly retreat in front of me, Li Xing still maintained the defensive posture of the emergency stick technique. Feeling the surge of blood flow in my body, as well as the excitement of my brain and muscles, Li Xing knew that this was the first time in his life that he was so sensitive to external influences. As about 5 minutes passed, Li Xing's excited state gradually dissipated and returned to his usual resting state. After realizing that the wolf pack had indeed evacuated, he removed his defensive posture. Leaning against the trees on the other side of the road, he sat down in one gulp. As I adjusted my breathing, I realized that the sweat on my body had already soaked my back. Looking at the few wolf corpses lying on the ground, Li Xing felt fortunate for his behavior of finding a trainer to start a small stove alone. Thank you, the instructor, for your careful guidance and your past self. Otherwise, I would be hanging up today. After sighing a few words, Li Xing looked at the fallen wolves on the ground in front of him, as well as the unfamiliar environment he was in. Where the hell am I? Looking at the forest in front of him, Li Xing murmured to himself. Unfortunately, Li Xing is not from the US military, and there is no monthly supply in this forest to answer his question. As an excellent young person who loves Republic novels and supports the development of national culture and entertainment, I have a good understanding and acceptance of the fact that I have already traveled. However, the current situation is that Li Xing knows he has traveled through time, but he has not figured out specifically which world he has traveled to. So, for Li Xing, recognizing the current world is his top priority. It seems we can only ask a local family first. Looking at my own achievements on the ground. After a sigh of emotion, I confirmed that the wolves were really dead, so I found a slightly thick stick from the path and beat the loot into sections. Like the fishermen on the internet, they hung on the thick stick ostentatiously. After lifting up, the stick full of prey continued to move along the road. By the way, can we meet local residents who can communicate with us? When I first came to this world, even without looking in the mirror, Li Xing, who was sober, had already realized that his body had changed. The first thing that is unusual is when you first get up and walk. As soon as I took a step to walk, my mind felt a bit unnatural. Yes, I have clearly grown taller. Especially when I lowered my head and observed the loose denim pants that I had previously needed to fold up my legs. Now, even after completely putting down the pants, some of my own calf socks can still leak out. This phenomenon prompted Li Xing to quickly check his body. In a state of shock and joy, I looked at the 8 unfamiliar and full abdominal muscles in front of me. He spoke his first Versailles speech in life. I wipe it. Where did my hard to train into a 9-in-1 abdominal muscle go? Then came a detailed inspection. The conclusion drawn is that this body indeed belongs to oneself. The traces of his past life before crossing over are also present. Especially when cutting his own toenails, Li Xing has a habit of cutting his thumb nails into triangular pointed shapes, which makes him more convinced that he belongs to the type of physical intruder. After confirming that it is one's own body, Li Xing felt the restless emotions inside his body. Looking down at his long legs, he knew without using a ruler that he had exceeded 18.180 centimeters. Especially before the battle, the state of full strength and drive made me involuntarily shout out, "I want to fight 10." Then, walking on the road in the forest, Li Xing held a wooden stick that was over 2 meters tall that he found in the jungle and kept waving excitedly. As the saying goes, a man's heart is filled with a young man. No man walking on the road can refuse a straight and long stick. If there is, looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com means that this man has a better stick in his hand. At that time, Li Xing felt his favorite stick in his hand without any sense of crisis, and a hint of happiness appeared on the corner of his mouth. As he waved, he recalled the emergency stick technique he had practiced during his college military training. I, who once received military training, was still a squad leader of an emergency stick formation. 7 or 8 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and I have gone from being a passionate young man who dares to fight to becoming a social burden of unemployment today. MD. Since I had already decided to resign, why wouldn't I dare to have a fight with the director? After speaking, the figure of my grandmother suddenly came to mind. Forget it. I don't think about it anymore. We're all forced laborers, why bother each other? Carrying the spoils of war and walking on the road, Li Xing felt a pang of fear when he recalled the previous battle. When I first crossed into this world, I was not fully prepared for psychological combat. Subconsciously treating wolves as wild dogs resulted in not being aware of the crisis in advance. Later, when the wolf pack appeared, I realized that the grinning canine creatures in front of me were not that simple. After realizing that my previous attitude was too casual, I secretly reflected on myself psychologically. This battle also made me realize that winning this time depends entirely on the changes in my body after crossing. It also made Li Xing believe that his physical condition was not as simple as he imagined. Especially before crossing, it is impossible to remember clearly that one's healthy physique is impossible, so skillfully use the stick technique that has been practiced before. Even during the heyday of one's body before crossing, it is impossible to be as relaxed and casual as it is today. It seems that there is still a lot to explore in this matter of time travel. Chapter 2. Pleasure Travelers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time goes back to before crossing. As a child from a working family, our protagonist Li Xing adheres to the independent and self-improvement spirit of not adding burden to the family after graduating from university. Once again, successfully joined after graduation and was dismissed. He, unwilling to be a dog and motivated to live like a human, struggled to work part-time or work outside to accumulate capital and prepare for entrepreneurship. But the reality is that without the title of working emperor, the image of those workers in movies, TV shows, and anime is even more unbearable. Late at night, living in a rented house. Li Xing lay in bed, looking at the phone screen in front of him, and shed a line of tears. How did you manage to live alone in a large commercial and residential building in the city center and cry for poverty? Immediately, I closed the TV series and uninstalled the relevant apps. After wiping away the tears and pondering for a while, he picked up his phone and dialed his father's number. After connecting, Li Xing's voice began to whimper for some reason. Under his father's questioning, Li Xing recounted his own situation. I really don't know, just come back and rest first. I understand if you don't want to be a dog, but you can't be tired like a dog and live worse than a dog. A joke from his father made Li Xing, who was already feeling down, burst into tears and burst into laughter, sweeping away the darkness in his heart. So, Li Xing, who had already thought about it, listened to his father's words and returned to his hometown Luoshendu. On the way home, Li Xing looked at the development of his unfamiliar Luoshendu and was somewhat surprised for a moment. Although it was the most suitable place to live, for some reason, most of Li Xing's classmates went to the Magic City. Li Xing didn't want to say the reason and was too lazy to think about it. In fact, the development status of Luoshendu is not bad, but it cannot be said to be good. The quality of its evaluation is mostly based on the comparison object, which is very passive. But one thing is a common consensus among the people of Shendu, which is that no matter how good Shendu is, it is stronger than Luoshendu, and much stronger. What, you asked me where I was strong? Nonsense. One is the capital of gods, and the other is the holy capital. Can the difference be the same if both realms are different? Li Xing, who returned home, naturally did not have the same absurd plot as in movies and TV dramas, where he met a wealthy person before he even got home, solved his employment problems directly, received a promotion and salary increase, married by Fume, became CEO, and finally achieved the pinnacle of his life. The father and son were just silent and speechless with each other. The situation is like returning home from a usual vacation, it's time to eat, drink, and clean up. Li Xing, who was restless, went out for a leisurely stroll after dinner. On the bus, Li Xing stared blankly at this familiar and unfamiliar city through the window. Among these high-rise buildings, suddenly a prominent building appeared on the roadside. Li Xing only saw the words Academy written on the sign, and quickly disappeared from his sight as the vehicle moved forward. Originally, this matter only flashed through my mind, without leaving too many memories. But as the vehicles moved towards their own direction, various identical academy buildings occasionally appeared in Li Xing's dull eyes as the vehicles moved. Oh! When will the gods have so many academies? As the bus approached a nearby station, Li Xing got off early. There was no other reason, just because I was curious about this almost urban academy. I got off the bus at the nearest station to home. Looking at the courtyard in front of me, a stereotypical impression of Western-style university architecture among Chinese people. Li Xing guessed that this was the nearest academy near his home. Swipe your ID card and enter the door. It's as quiet as usual inside, just like the library in a university. However, most of the books placed in front of me are biographies of the older generation, and the covers are still mostly red. After nodding and greeting the on-duty administrator, Li Xing stepped forward and picked up a book with a red cover, finding a seat in the corner. I flipped through the book and read on. For Li Xing, who is already unemployed, he naturally feels a bit uncomfortable when he comes home to face his father. My classmates and friends are all in the hottest places, not in this city. For him, who is lonely, finding a quiet place to read is indeed a good choice. Time passed little by little, and some old men and women who were resting in the academy and reading newspapers also returned home one after another. The librarian who has been following Li Xing all along is looking thoughtfully at Li Xing, who is immersed in books. After a while, the administrator who had finished organizing the academy looked at the clock in the hall. I found that Li Xing in the corner was still so addicted to it. He approached with a smile and asked softly, "How is it? How does it feel to read this book?" The sudden greeting from the administrator instantly snapped Li Xing, who was immersed in the sea of books. Looking at the handsome administrator in front of me with a bewildered expression. "How about it? Can you understand it?" At this moment, a sentence suddenly came to Li Xing's mind. There is a kind of handsomeness that women think is handsome. There is also a kind of handsomeness that both men and women consider handsome. As a straight man, Li Xing believes that the administrator in front of him belongs to the handsome type behind him. Listening to his voice gives Li Xing a feeling of wanting to get close to him and make friends. Understanding is understanding. Li Xing felt a bit embarrassed, but unfortunately, I can only understand now. The administrator looked at Li Xing with a hint of shyness and comforted him with a smile. "It's okay. As long as you understand this book now, it's not too late, right?" Li Xing closed the book and looked at the cover, saying, "Probably." By the way. Li Xing looked at the administrator with confusion. "Excuse me, what can I do for you?" The administrator just pointed to the electronic watch hanging in the hall, smiling and not speaking. Realizing something, Li Xing quickly stood up and said, "I'm sorry. I've been reading too much. I forgot the time and caused you trouble." "It's okay. You can take him away and come home to see him." "Is this okay? How much deposit is it?" The administrator just smiled and said, "There is no deposit, just pay a handling fee of 100 yuan. You can borrow our academy's ID card at any time. Trust me, it will be beneficial to you." Looking at that friendly smiling face, Li Xing felt embarrassed and raised 100 yuan from his wallet, then handed over his ID card to the administrator. The administrator still smiled and took the 100 yuan, consisting of 5 yuan, 10 yuan, and 20 yuan, from Li Xing's hand. After inputting Li Xing's ID card into a specialized information database, he gave Li Xing a college ID card. Li Xing didn't pay too much attention, just took back his ID card and nodded to the administrator. He left the academy with his books in hand. After leaving, Li Xing walked while still planning how to incorporate the academy into his life in the future. The administrator, on the other hand, watched as Li Xing left and murmured to himself, "Looking forward to our next meeting." When we arrived home, it was not yet dark. The sun in the west was mocked by passers-by as tomato-like, still hanging in the sky. Seeing that his father had not yet returned, Li Xing went straight into his own room. After changing into loose clothes, I placed the borrowed book in front of my bed. Along with the newly obtained ID card, it was casually placed on the computer desk. After opening a cup of cool water and locking the room door, Li Xing sat on the chair in front of the computer desk. I opened the 10-year-old computer that was just cleaned yesterday. Looking at his familiar XP desktop, Li Xing immediately opened an old game on an old computer. Compared to current games, Li Xing prefers old games from the past. In Li Xing's eyes, games used to be played by people, but now games are more like playing with people. Especially Li Xing has never understood those who are angry at playing games and wish to fight with their relatives and friends. I often see scenes of my college roommates getting angry or even fighting with each other due to the game being blocked. Li Xingdu couldn't help but ask himself, is this just people playing games, or are games playing people? Rather than saying that Li Xing is in love with games from the past, it is more accurate to say that he is in love with the atmosphere of playing games from the past. Glancing at the games on his old computer with over a decade of history, Li Xing pondered and made up his mind. Let's go, Warcraft. It has strong playability, and if it doesn't work out, you can still say, who is your dad? Anyway, it's always entertaining. Then, Li Xing opened the game and selected a 3C map he had previously played from numerous data map libraries. I started the game directly. When loading the waiting interface, Li Xing somehow felt that the loading time of this game was a bit long. But when I think of an old computer that has been around for more than 10 years, I no longer think about so many things that have been around. Take a cold bite and open your stomach, directly, long live your understanding. Afterwards, he leaned back on his chair and closed his eyes, ready to listen to the successfully loaded game music. Zhaozhuyuan.com. Perhaps Li Xing has not been exposed to games for too long. If anyone with relevant gaming experience knows, this game from 10 years ago did not have the ability to cache and load directly, let alone Li Xing, who started the game without even having the choice of an opponent. In summary, Li Xing's game was equivalent to a lonely one. However, Li Xing, who should have been lonely, did not know that as he closed his eyes and waited for the cache, the entire room's time suddenly slowed down. At the moment when the screen cache was completed, the ID card and ID card merged into one, emitting a golden light that filled the entire room. Li Xing, who was blinded by the light, instinctively thought that his computer and screen were malfunctioning and instinctively wanted to press Alt plus F4. Just as soon as you press the Alt key, the sound effect of the loaded game sounds in your ear. Subsequently, Li Xing was enveloped in the radiance of the card and disappeared from the computer screen. In the room where the light and Li Xing disappeared, the computer and screen seemed to have cut off power and stopped working. The whole room is as usual. Apart from the clothes on the bed and the phone and read books by the bedside. No one has proven that Li Xing has returned. The entire room's time has also come to a standstill. In the world of Azeroth, a golden light suddenly appeared in the Alvin forest on the continent. The light did not dissipate, but gradually merged with the human form after coalescing into it. Finally, Li Xing's figure appeared, and this ray of light contracted smaller and smaller until it penetrated Li Xing's eyebrows. Immediately, Li Xing opened his eyes. Li Xing, sitting under the shade of a tree, muttered to himself as he suddenly found himself in a strange jungle. Where is this TM? Chapter 3. Great Careers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After walking for about half an hour, carrying a thick and long wooden stick full of prey, Li Xing noticed a prominent stone tablet standing on the hollow ground of the forest by the roadside. It is engraved with patterns that I am not aware of, and there is also a faint blue light floating on it. Like the first glimmer of dawn in the sky under the dark night, a light blue color emerges, looking both joyful and hopeful. Stepping forward and taking a closer look, Li Xing understood everything with the familiar boulder. Isn't this the resurrection stone in my game Warcraft 3? From this moment on, Li Xingzai has completely clarified the world he has traveled through. The troubled Azeroth. What kind of luck, how did you get into this damn place? After clarifying the current situation, Li Xing felt like crying without tears. He is not a fanatic, and his daily exposure to Warcraft games is only for entertainment and leisure, with little understanding of the world. However, even so, Li Xing has learned about this cruel and stormy world from the comments section of various travel novels and damn news. After adjusting his mentality, Li Xing stepped forward and began to touch the buildings that often appear in this game. Netizens who have played Warcraft 3 in the early days have a clear understanding of the maps they created. The Resurrection Stone is often used as the beginning of a map. as an initial landmark building for selecting skills, heroes, and more. Li Xing naturally understands the extraordinary significance of this building to the world. I am looking forward to preparing to touch and see if I can get the corresponding opportunity. When Li Xing touched the resurrection stone, an upgraded sound effect immediately came to his mind. In the blink of an eye, this concise and clear data appeared in my own consciousness. Name: Li Xing. Occupation: Farmer, Dimension Walker, Race. Level: 3. The Dimensional Transgressor. Because I came through. This is also a profession. Also, this data is too simple. I won't just hang a number here, I can only check the data. Li Xing was roast in his heart. In the world of Azeroth that Li Xing learned about, travelers are not uncommon. Before, there was a small roar shouting, "Times have changed," crossing back to the past to change history. In later novels, there is a monitoring of the functions of the time dragons. In fact, the resurrection stone that Li Xing touched was indeed as he had imagined. It's just like hanging a name on the planet of Azeroth, gaining recognition from the soul of Azeroth, and officially becoming a part of Azeroth. With the distant forest in the sky, there came a long howl of a wolf. Li Xing regained his senses and realized that it was not time for wild thoughts. The mountains and forests around here are a bit dangerous. We don't have time to leave the ink stains here, we must hurry along the way. Find a place where there is someone and we can rest. Then, holding a stick, he continued to move along the road. Li Xing did not feel disappointed with the data provided by the resurrection stone. Although he doesn't have the same golden fingers as other protagonists in novels, his strength and physical fitness still gives Li Xing confidence in this unfamiliar world. As for his professional identity, as a person who grew up under the red flag, he is not averse to the profession of being a farmer, but rather somewhat fortunate. In Li Xing's view, the farmers in Warcraft are not so much farmers, but rather comprehensive hands. Firstly, the profession of the unit is a farmer, and logically speaking, the main job is farming. But in the entire Warcraft game, this professional character not only has some connections with building farms and farming, but other operations are simply a reflection of the characteristics of the working-class profession. Iron has been struck in blacksmiths, trees have been cut outside logging yards, gold has been mined in gold mines, and cities have been built in front of wild mining areas, mutual assistance to improve progress, single-handed hammering for maintenance, bare-handed rubbing of buildings on flat ground, collecting resources for transportation. Suddenly, the sound of a warning sounded, wearing armor and wielding a sword, charging towards the enemy. I am the first to charge towards the enemy, and I will not retreat from the deadly battle. This reliable labor result, this contribution to social value, this excellent professional ethics, this heroic militia spirit. MD is amazing. This character arrangement is simply amazing. Regardless of the origin, I would have thought this was a game developed by an unsolved red superpower. Sleeping slot. Wait, did I find something? In this gaming world, in short. Don't ask fellow farmers if it's okay. First, ask yourself if the development of the technology tree you plan is good. Li Xing believes that if the environment is improved and satisfied, the profession of a farmer will eventually dominate the continent of Azeroth. Heroes. They are just a group of puppets who rely on resources to accumulate skills, nothing more than relying on unique hero armor to bully people. If those monopolized resources tilt towards the general public, everyone will have the opportunity to develop their own unique skills. As for others, can you repair things? Can you build buildings? Will it increase population? What? I don't know anything about it. I only know how to kill enemies. In the realm of Azeroth, who wouldn't know how to kill enemies? In short, if you say that farmers in Japanese hero novels will dominate the world, I will question it. However, I don't find it strange that farmers dominate the world in World of Warcraft. So, Li Xing was not disappointed with the job he was assigned to, and even wanted to laugh. Haha. Azeroth, I'm here. As for strength, Li Xing himself is not in a hurry to worry. When Li Xing saw his panel displaying levels, he knew what to do. So, Li Xing followed this forest path and walked to the village at the end of the road. At the end of the dirt road below, there is a small town that is not very big. Compared to the standards of crossing the previous world, it is more suitable to use a manor or village as a title in front of you. Walking on the road in the small town, Li Xing noticed that the road under his feet was slightly different from the muddy road before. The roads in the small town are clearly hardened, with a silver-gray road surface and a significantly higher roadbed than the dirt road outside the village, which connects green and yellow. Looking ahead, although the road is not as smooth as the cement pavement, it does not hinder pedestrians from walking. The main body of the road is paved with large crushed stones, and the gaps between the stones are filled with miscellaneous small stones. Occasionally, different colored stones can be observed at the book garden www.zhaozhuyuan.com. Due to the gap between the main gravel and stones being filled with gray-white adhesive of unknown materials, Li Xing had the illusion that the road was silver-gray in the distance. The entire town has a single route and no distinction between primary and secondary roads. Occasionally, a few children pass by the roadside, and the width of the road varies with the density of surrounding buildings. The wide section of the road can roughly accommodate 2 cars side by side, while the narrow section can roughly accommodate 3 or 2 people walking side by side. Although most roads can only pass the width of 1 car, due to the presence of a blacksmith shop and a large open space in the center of the town, the architectural layout of the entire village is centered around the blacksmith shop. If viewed from a high altitude, it is neither square nor round. It's very casual. The blacksmith shop in the center of the town is surrounded by a silver-gray hardened road, making the entire town appear particularly spacious. The style of the small town houses is roughly the same as the game style in my impression, with little difference, but their details appear more rich and obvious. Especially the huge anvil at the entrance of the blacksmith shop in the center of the town, and the red-roofed tavern on one side of the town. Li Xing walked on the stone road of the small town. While carrying the spoils of war, I looked around and observed the appearance of the small town. The residents of the small town looked at the handsome young man who was unfamiliar and spirited in front of them. The Eastern appearance with black hair and black pupils added a touch of exotic charm to this remote town. Observing the scrutinizing gaze of the residents of the roadside town, Li Xing responded with a friendly smile. For a moment, a blush appeared on the faces of the girls on the roadside. They shyly turned their cheeks and observed Li Xing strolling in the town with the corner of their eyes. Hello. Guests from afar, may I ask if there is anything you need to do when you come to our small town? Chapter 4. Hunter Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello. Guests from afar, may I ask if there is anything I can help you with in our town? A light and beautiful voice sounded behind me, and when I turned around, I saw a slender and graceful lady standing 2 or 3 steps behind me. The lady in front of her is a bit thin, with a straight back that is only about the height of her chest. Perhaps due to the climate of the small town in the mountains, her skin appears tender and fair. I saw her wearing a slightly faded and white European-style off-the-shoulder dress, and the waistline of the skirt accentuated her slender waist. Her long golden hair was scattered over her shoulders, faintly covering her bright and clean shoulders. Her bright green eyes, like emerald green gemstones in water, reflect a sparkling light. Feng Fu is telling the story of the owner of the eyes, gazing at the beauty of life. The smiling face gives a cheerful and lively impression to her already upright and 3-dimensional facial features. Even the slightly emaciated face was more spirited against the backdrop of this crisp voice and the sunny smile. Looking at the lady in front of him, who had a better face and stood with her hips crossed, Li Xing responded with a smile, "Hello, beautiful lady. I would like to know, what is this place?" The other party, on the other hand, enthusiastically narrated to themselves as they had anticipated. This is Hunter Town in Alvin Forest. Our town is named after most hunters. Hunter Town. Where is it? I know a rough idea about Alvin Forest, why haven't I heard of this place? The inner doubt lingered in my mind. Li Xing, who was eager for stability, no longer pondered over these things. At this moment, he only wanted to find a stable environment to calm his mind and body. I am a traveler from another continent and now I am looking for a place to settle down. I really like the environment of this town, so I want to settle here. Can you help me recommend it to the mayor? Upon hearing that a foreign refugee wanted to settle here, the lady's face was stunned, and her bright eyes rolled up and down to examine Li Xing. Li Xing, who has traveled through time, now has a much larger body size and height than before. Under the golden light, Li Xing, who was already not ugly, has made his tough face even more handsome. And he, who has never worked under the sun before, his already fair skin becomes even more shiny and rosy after crossing over. The short black hair, clean face, and simple loose clothing on Li Xing set off an extraordinary temperament. Looking at Li Xing's clean and handsome face, he immediately gave himself the impression of a harmless and delicious little white face with soft rice. But it was also observed that behind its sturdy and tall body, there were several adult wolf corpses wrapped around and hanging with wooden sticks on its broad shoulders. All of this indicates that Li Xing is not as weak and deceitful as his face suggests. So, the girl with a good and lively appearance smiled cunningly and said, "It's possible, but you need to get the mayor's approval first. The premise of needing my help to recommend is that as long as you take the prey behind you as a reward, are you willing?" "Of course I do." As he spoke, Li Xing quickly handed over the wooden stick on his shoulder, along with the prey, to the lady in front of him. Looking at the prey on the ground that belonged to her at this moment, the girl stared at her shining eyes and showed an unexpected expression. She didn't expect the other party to hand it over to her so directly and generously. She hasn't done this job herself yet, so Party A transferred her salary to the account. So happily, he withdrew his gaze from the prey placed on one side and gazed back at the white man in front of him, extending his right hand to introduce himself. "My name is Lucy, and you?" "Outsider traveler." "My name is Li Xing." After speaking, Li Xing reached out his right hand and briefly clenched his hands. After a brief self-introduction, Li Xing gestured for Lucy to go find the mayor. Lucy also expressed agreement with Li Xing's ideas. Lucy encountered some difficulties while picking up prey on the ground. She found herself unable to hold these prey. Watching Lucy struggling, Li Xing once again thrust his thick and long wooden stick against him. Faced with Lucy's puzzled gaze, he replied, "If this continues, I reckon we haven't found the village chief yet, and you'll be overwhelmed. I'll hold it for you first and deliver it to the place you specified later, so we can hurry up." Lucy, who was squatting, stood up and clapped her hands, helplessly saying, "Okay. You're really right." Afterwards, Li Xing followed Lucy and headed towards the center of the town. Li Xing, who was following Lucy, noticed that in the town, regardless of gender or age, they would stop and stare at him with wide eyes. Has my handsomeness surpassed gender and age? Seeing this scene, Li Xing's heart became so narcissistic. But as more and more people stopped to observe him, Li Xing also noticed a hint of abnormality. That's these onlookers. Although they were all the first to look at themselves, Li Xing noticed that these onlookers were all looking behind him later. And what was behind him, Li Xing was too clear. Is this the pleasure of those fishermen? Sure enough, their looks are unbeatable in front of their abilities. The two walked for less than 5 minutes. Lucy pointed to the blacksmith shop and said, "Here we go." That's it. It wasn't until he arrived at the blacksmith's shop that Li Xing realized something was wrong. Perhaps it was because I was too happy after traveling that I never realized it before. From the beginning and end of my conversation with Lucy, the other person spoke English, while I responded in Chinese. It is gratifying that both sides have no obstacles before and after this communication, and can understand each other's meanings. So much so that Li Xing never realized how incompatible this situation was. Looking at the text in front of me that I have never seen before, but at this moment, I can understand its meaning. Faced with such a situation, a sense of discord instantly surged in my heart. Although I don't know who to thank, Li Xing at this moment has someone to thank. Thank you to the comrades of the localization team. Without your efforts, I probably wouldn't have been exposed to this game. Fortunately, I have a certain understanding of this game in my heart. Otherwise, I would have lost a lot of myself after traveling through time. While feeling fortunate in my heart, I also expressed my own emotions. Its experience also serves as a warning to many travelers. Traveling through familiar games and film and television works, what one should be most grateful for after becoming developed are the comrades in the localization group who have lowered the threshold for beginners and selflessly contributed. Without their hard work and dedication, Li Xing estimated that most of the travelers would be too scared to walk in unfamiliar environments. Li Xing, who was outside the door, watched as Lucy walked into the blacksmith's shop and heard Lucy inside shouting in her crisp voice, "Uncle Turner. Are you here? We have guests." Inside the entrance, you can see various shaped tools displayed on one side of the wall. The surrounding walls are also covered with small objects made of metal materials and various weapons matched with protective gear. Lucy saw that Li Xing was still carrying the prey, so she signaled to place the prey in a corner of the house and took Li Xing to a long table by the window. Lucy pulled up a chair and said, "You sit here for a while, I'll go call Uncle Turner." After sitting down, I saw Lucy standing in front of the counter, shouting at the inner door behind the counter. "Uncle Turner! Uncle Turner!" Lucy continued to shout. In no time, a voice came from the inner room. All right. Lucy, I got it." Chapter 5. The Crosser was born in Pandaria, which is very normal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the response coming from the inner room. Li Xing saw a strong man with a beard all over his face rubbing his eyes and walked out. "Really, Lucy? Don't disturb my good dreams while I'm sleeping next time." Uncle Turner was about to complain to Lucy when he saw Li Xing standing up next to the table. Uncle Turner is not averse to Li Xing's oriental face. After all, most people still have a favorable impression of handsome guys at first glance. What surprised and puzzled Uncle Turner was the appearance of such an outsider in his remote mountainous town. After carefully examining the delicate and tender young man in front of him, Uncle Turner stepped forward to inquire. "This young man, you shouldn't be from the Storm Kingdom?" Facing an uncle named Turner who was a few steps away from him, he asked. I will blurt out the prepared speech myself. "I am a traveler from another continent, but now that I am tired of the confusion along the way, I want to settle here." Upon hearing these words, Uncle Turner frowned. But soon he calmed down and walked to the reception table by the window. "You guys sit down first. I'll go prepare for it." After bringing 3 teacups filled with water to the reception table, Uncle Turner pulled up a chair and sat down, extending his right hand to introduce himself. "Angie Turner. He's the mayor of Hunter Town here. Just call me Turner." Li Xing also reached out his right hand and held it, saying, "My name is Li Xing." Upon hearing Li Xing's name, Uncle Turner was somewhat surprised, so he asked curiously. "Li Xing, your name is very similar to the names of pandas. You don't have any connection with pandas, do you?" I grew up in the homeland of Pandaria." Li Xing disguised himself as a traveler born in Pandaria. This is not because of one's own bad intentions, nor is it because one is good at lying and not sincere. Indeed, it is difficult to explain the matter of time travel, nor can it be explained. So Li Xing could only fabricate his own identity background and combine it with the background of the panda person who is closest to his life in this world. Li Xing was somewhat surprised by the panda man mentioned by Uncle Turner in front of him. "Mr. Turner, you actually know pandas. Not many people in this country know about them." Seeing Li Xing's surprised and curious expression, Angie Turner explained. My blacksmith skills were learned from two pandas I met while traveling. I have been with them for a while, and to some extent, they can also be considered my teachers. Upon hearing this answer, Lucy sitting on the side was deeply surprised. Turns out, Uncle Turner, your craft was learned from outsiders. It's really surprising, I always thought it was your inherited skill. Upon hearing Lucy's surprise, Uncle Turner only glanced at her and then said with a knowing smile. If my craft is passed down from family, why don't you think about it? My younger brother doesn't know how to do it. After picking up the cup and taking 2 sips, Uncle Turner continued to tell his story with the Panda Man. Although the Pandaren are outsiders, they are one of the few peaceful and friendly races. They enjoy traveling around and have strong martial arts skills. I have been rescued by the Pandaren in the Alvin Forest before. In order to repay their kindness, I took them to the place where I lived at the time to entertain them for a period of time. During this period, I watched them manufacturing weapons and sought their advice and learning. And they are also very willing to teach me skills. Unfortunately, they still have to travel and cannot teach me for a long time. Otherwise, today the best blacksmith in Storm Kingdom would be me, Angie Turner. Upon hearing Uncle Turner's account, Li Xing began to hear the heroes he often hired to control in the game Tavern. So he tried to inquire. Mr. Turner, is the name of the panda man you mentioned called Chen Storm Spirit? Faced with Li Xing's questions, Uncle Turner pondered for a moment and said with a bitter smile. To be ashamed, I forgot the names of those 2 panda people. Looking at the shocked and unbelievable expressions of the 2 people in front of me, Uncle Turner also realized that his words were indeed somewhat unbelievable. This is also something I can't do. After all, your names are really rare. And it's been so many years since they last. I'm already at this age, so it's good to remember this. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but I've never forgotten their appearance. Watching Uncle Turner awkwardly defend himself, Li Xing and Lucy also knew that this was not a solution. So Lucy quickly interjected. Uncle Turner, let's not talk about the Panda Man for now. Today, I'm here to introduce you to Li Xing. If it suits you, we can directly discuss the matter of settling down. Lucy pointed to several wolf corpses in the corner and said, Look, that's a gift from Li Xing's hunting for us. I've received all the gifts. There's a portion of yours, Uncle. See the fresh wolf corpses on the ground. After learning about his background, Uncle Turner immediately showed a hint of affirmation in his eyes towards Li Xing. Not bad. I didn't expect Lucy to bring in a decent combat force for our hunter town as soon as she made a move. Listening to Uncle Turner's praise, Lucy, who held her head high, smiled even more broadly. Watching on the side, I was also surprised by Lucy's actions, but I didn't reveal anything. In short, after this referral, Lucy left a deep impression in her heart that she would be interested in. Uncle Turner responded with a smile and then turned to Li Xing. Since you are from Pandaria, I will waive your entry fee. I believe in your character and the reputation of your hometown's panda people. I hope you can live here better and serve our hunter town better with your own abilities. Finally, I hope you will not disappoint the expectations of the hunter town residents and the reputation of the panda people in the Storm Kingdom. Hunter Town, welcome to join. Young people. So Li Xing successfully settled down in Hunter Town. And in the joy of Li Xing entering the household, he obtained a dedicated housing allocated by the town. Chapter 6. Popular Lucy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How to establish oneself in a new environment. Li Xing's experience before traveling tells him that the answer is based on housing and work. So, for a traveler, having a unique house of their own is the real beginning to take root in this world. Lucy. Are you sure? This is the house that the town has allocated to me. Li Xing pointed to the building in front of him and turned his head in shock to ask Lucy. Even Lucy, who gives the impression of being cheerful and lively, has a very complex expression at this moment. Look at the house pointed at by Li Xing. Half of its roof has collapsed, and noon sunlight is directly shining into the house. And the door of the house has long been missing. Looking roughly from outside to inside, spider webs crisscross the room. It seems that it is no longer suitable for human habitation at this time. Lucy could only smile awkwardly and explain to Li Xing. There's no way, this house has been abandoned for many years. To be honest, no one in our town would have thought that some people would come to settle in such a remote town. Li Xing, looking at Li Xing's expression, which went from expectation to doubt, then to disappointment, and finally changed in confusion. Lucy tried to console herself. You see, it's not necessary to live here now. You can first find a job and then hire everyone to help you. Do you think so? Lucy comforted herself with her awkward smile while giving herself some advice. And Li Xing was guided by Lucy's suggestion to ponder. You're right. However, is there a suitable job for me here? Lucy looked at Li Xing with a dull expression on her face. That expression, as if looking at a fool, made me realize the problem in my words just now. Sorry, I made a mistake. Li Xing quickly explained. Upon careful consideration, in the eyes of others, I have a strong physique with both hands and feet, and can even defeat a pack of wolves. It is a bit inappropriate for such an excellent man, who is widely regarded by others in this world, to ask such a pretentious question to a woman who has not met for the first time more than noon. Moreover, I am still a level traveler. Lucy apologized for her explanation and said she didn't pay too much attention. Then he said to himself, this is a bit far from the center of Hunter Town, but it's not too far. Later, I'll take you to the town to get to know each other and say hello to everyone, so as not to misunderstand with others. After speaking, before Li Xing could leave the confused state, he pulled him up and walked towards the town. Come to a house. After Lucy knocked on the door with Li Xing, the door of the house opened in no time. Good morning, Lucy. What can I do for you? The strong man in front of him smiled foolishly at Lucy. But when he saw Li Xing, who was unfamiliar to Lucy, he immediately lost his smile and looked at Li Xing with a wary expression on his face. Lucy didn't respond to the other party, just turned her head and introduced herself to Li Xing. This is the hunter in Hunter Town, Alex. If you're looking for companions to hunt with, you can consider this one. After seeing Li Xing nod to show her understanding, Lucy began introducing the unfamiliar visitor to the town to the homeowner. Alex. This is Li Xing, a new member of our town who has recently moved in. He is a newcomer that Uncle Turner has explained well. Don't cause trouble for him, otherwise Uncle Turner will take good care of you. The strong and dark man named Alex in front of him smiled and replied to Lucy. *___**, hee. Don't worry, Lucy. How could I not understand Uncle Turner's instructions? Don't worry. I have received the instructions here. By the way, is Alex at home? If he is, you can tell him. Lucy looked curiously behind the door. He's no longer going hunting in the mountains and forests. He set off in the morning, but don't worry, I'll tell him about this. Seeing Alex's commanding expression, Lucy believed his words and turned to Li Xing, saying, Let's go. Go to the next house. After seeing Lucy and Li Xing walk away, Alex, who had seen Lucy leave with a smile on his face, instantly transformed into a look of disgust. Cut it. You look amazing. A little white face, bah. With a bang, the door of the house closed. After entering the room, Alex simply tidied up and tossed around for a while. Then he opened the door and came out. Alex turned around and locked the door, heading towards the blacksmith's shop. Its purpose is to inquire with Uncle Turner about the origin of the little white face in this town. In this way, Li Xing was like a walking object, brought by Lucy to the houses of each household and introduced to the villagers. The child who plays with his own dog at the door is called Wales, and he often comes to my house to play. Moreover, this family is very easy to get along with. Before Li Xing could reply, Lucy took Li Xing into the yard. Wales, is your father at home? Wales, holding the little dog, heard the commotion and turned around to see Lucy's figure. Lucy, why are you here? My dad is not at home, are you looking for him? Actually, Lucy, I can also help him with some things. Upon hearing Wales's words, Lucy quickly interrupted the introduction. It's nothing, I'll just introduce you to a new friend, she said, pointing to Li Xing. This big brother's name is Li Xing, and he's our new partner in the town. You should greet him well when you meet him in the future. Welsh, holding the little dog, tilted his head and saw Li Xing's handsome face. Sister Lucy. How come this big brother's eyes are black, and his hair is also black and so short? It's strange. Li Xing. Lucy, you're here. In front of another house, a girl opened the door and, upon seeing Li Xing, whispered in Lucy's ear. Lucy, who is this man? He looks so handsome. It's not like you're getting married soon. Bring your partner to inform me. Lucy. Li Xing, who has strong physical senses. Yo, Lucy. It's you. How come you have time to come to my logging farm? Is your family running out of firewood again? Don't worry, Uncle doesn't have much else, just take the firewood as you please. Lucy, the owner of the logging farm, looked at Li Xing again. Yo. Who is the young man behind you? He's so handsome, he has a youthful temperament that I used to have. Ha ha ha. Li Xing. Dear colleagues. Lucy. Who is the young man behind you? He looks so handsome, so you should cherish him well, not like the one in my house. Lucy. The handsome guy behind you, let me introduce you to Shuyuan. www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Didn't you always want my bread? I won't give you bread crumbs this time, can I just give you a basket of bread as an introduction fee? Lucy, you must be careful not to be deceived by your appearance. If you are a little white face who eats soft food, your life will be even more difficult. So, why don't you consider me? Lucy. Li Xing. After several introductions, Li Xing and Lucy were both physically and mentally exhausted. Lucy found that introducing new people to the town residents was not only a waste of words, but also a risk of exposing her own dark history. Not to mention, during this period, it is inevitable to guide others and explain numerous troubles in various situations. Li Xing, who was resting on the side, also found that although his handsome appearance could win favor in front of women, it was easy to make enemies among men of the same age. Thinking of the librarian before his time traveling, Li Xing instinctively made a comparison. I discovered that my slightly inferior self has not yet reached the level of being both male and female in terms of handsome value. Pooh. Overall, Li Xing's gains this time are not without them. Confirmed a fact, it was a very correct decision to have Lucy next to her as her home introduction person. Li Xing also found that Lucy is very popular in this town, and the villagers are also very concerned about Lucy's living situation. From the analysis of verbal dialogue, it can be concluded that Lucy is not yet married and that she often seeks things from various families. Looking at the thin figure in front of him, Li Xing's heart suddenly became curious, just as he was about to ask something. Lucy suddenly turned around and pointed to a house, saying, "This is the last one." Chapter 7. Anekra's Careful Thoughts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With Lucy knocking and introducing Li Xing door in order, Lucy finally brought Li Xing to the last door mentioned. But this time, he didn't knock on the door first, but shouted loudly in front of the door. Anekra. Anekra. Are you there? I'm here to find you. In no time, the sound of a response came from inside the door of the house. Coming, Lucy. Next time, if you have anything to do, come over earlier. Now, you're delaying my work." As he spoke, a beautiful figure appeared as the door opened. The woman inside the door also had fair and rosy skin like Lucy, but unlike Lucy, her figure was not thin. On the contrary, she gave Li Xing a plump and fleshy impression. The bright white on his chest instantly caught Li Xing's attention, and then flashed past his eyes in an instant. "Ah!" A woman named Anekra observed Li Xing as soon as she opened the door. Then he quickly covered his chest and looked at Lucy with a look of anger on his face. "Lucy, why didn't you say in advance that someone else was around?" As she spoke, she used her smooth and flowing brown hair to cover her side and tidy up her clothes. After finishing organizing, Anekra turned around and blushed, saying to Li Xing, "Sorry, I made you see my loss of composure." Li Xing looked at the shy woman in front of him and responded with great interest. "There and there, that scene just now is probably the luckiest moment for me recently." "Oh, oh, haha." After speaking, Li Xing blushed even more when he saw the face of the little sister Anekra in front of him. If Lucy gives herself the impression of a deer in the woods, then the image of Anekra in front of her is of a gentle little sheep on the grassland. When she saw that Anekra had already been taken aback by Li Xing's words, Lucy twisted Li Xing's waist. "Don't you bully Anekra. This is my friend. If you dare to bully her, I won't end up with you." Feeling pain in her waist and Lucy's warning cannibalistic gaze, Li Xing realized that his actions were somewhat reckless. "Sorry, Miss Anekra. My words were a bit frivolous just now. If you feel uncomfortable, I am willing to apologize to you. If possible, I hope to give you corresponding compensation for your beauty." Li Xing imitated the aristocratic knights in the Western movie before his time traveling, while speaking praises and performing a chest caress. A young girl who has not been saluted for a long time, looking at the tall, handsome, and resolute man in front of her, is like a charming image of a hero knight in a minstrel. The young girl, who was in her prime, immediately immersed herself in the romantic story of the knight and princess. Li Xing in front of him was like a handsome, powerful, and loyal knight in the story. And he is the Royal Highness Princess who loves but cannot. The characters that appeared in the romantic love story in my memory have now transformed from words into vivid images. Lucy stood there staring blankly at Anekra, who had been fooled by Li Xing. She probably also understands what her friend is like now. So he quickly changed the topic and introduced it. "Anekra, let me introduce you to you. This is a new member of our hunter town, named Li Xing. I will bring him to your place to meet you. Li Xing, this is the textile girl from our hunter town, Anekra. She is also my good friend and family. If you want to make clothes, come and find her with absolute peace of mind." As soon as she finished speaking, Lucy was pulled into her own room by Anekra, and after watching Li Xing wait alone outside, she closed the door and turned to Lucy in a low voice. "Lucy, Lucy. You have nothing to do with this Li Xing, right? You should understand what I mean." After hearing this, Lucy looked helplessly at Anekra, who was coquettish towards her. "Don't worry. Anekra, I met him today. Please take him to Uncle Turner. If you like him, you will have to serve dim sum. I have taken him to introduce him from door to door in the town for a long time. It can be seen that many girls in the town are very interested in him." Lucy thought that after explaining clearly, Anekra would calm down a bit. But I didn't expect my words to make Anekra panic. "Lucy, how could you do this? I'm your friend, how could you not bring him to see me first? At least you should have informed me beforehand. Ah, what should we do? Will that incident just make him have a bad opinion of me? What should I do, Lucy, help me?" Facing his close friend, he shook his arm while blaming and seeking help for his behavior. "Our guide, Ms. Lucy, is tired of dim sum. I am just a guide entrusted by Uncle Turner, not a romantic introducer. How could anyone blame me for this? What to do, what to do? Do you have any negative opinions?" The light on your chest, even I occasionally want to feel and touch it, let alone this spirited young man. He can't be too happy for himself, what other negative opinions can he have? I guess he's secretly enjoying himself now. Lucy's heart roast that Anekra was not clear. Just still holding Lucy for help. Faced with Anekra's intimate coquettishness. Lucy's arms occasionally felt the radiance of her maternal nature from Anekra, beating the nerve of Lucy's psyche. Finally, Lucy couldn't bear it anymore, so she shouted at Anekra. Look at the move. As she spoke, Lucy extended her claws of Onlu Mountain. The coquettish anger of Anekra, who was still blaming him just now. As she watched her hands protect her chest and gradually move away from her own Anekra, Lucy's sense of conquest exploded in an instant. He crossed his waist and straightened his chest, revealing a wicked smile at Anekra, saying, "Are you still making trouble with me? If you want to make trouble, continue." Upon hearing these words, Anekra shook his head with his chest-protected hands and quickly expressed his attitude. But he stubbornly said, "I don't care about other girls in the town, but Lucy, if I fall in love with him, don't compete with me, okay?" Upon hearing Anekra's words, Our Lady Lucy's blood pressure instantly rose. "What is my mother fighting for from you? Can I snatch you? Do you know how tempting your figure is? Even I wish I could become a man and eat it for you. Anekra, it seems that you still haven't learned your lesson. Look at the move." Immediately, Our Lady Lucy once again exerted her long-trained dragon claw hand with great momentum and repeatedly begged for mercy from her opponent Miss Anekra. After a fight, both sides' physical strength was almost exhausted. Lucy left in front of the Anekra house with Li Xing and left here. Anekra looked at the back of Li Xing and Lucy as they left and murmured. "Lucy, there are so many girls in the town. I just don't want to argue with you as a family in this area." On the way out. Zhaozhuyuan.com Li Xing looked at Lucy with a rosy face and asked. "Lucy. What were you doing just now? I vaguely heard Miss Anekra moaning outside." "You two can't." Lucy, walking ahead, heard Li Xing's question. The blood pressure, which was originally satisfied with the desire to conquer, suddenly rose again due to the joyful drop. Without further ado, Lucy immediately turned around and gave Li Xing a close-up flying kick. Upon seeing this, Li Xing's body immediately reacted, and a few adjustments in his steps avoided the attack. And looked at Lucy with a puzzled expression. After seeing Li Xing evade his attack, Lucy could only vaguely give up and say, "If Anekra falls in love with you in the future, Li Xing, you can't let down her love. If you dare to bully her, I swear I won't end it with you." "What? What's all this about? Why did Anekra fall in love with me? What's going on?" Faced with Li Xing's puzzled expression and a distressed tone in her words, Lucy chose to ignore it directly. "Feeling the touch of my hands playing with Anekra just now, the thought of the silly young man in front of me might be able to enjoy this beauty alone every day in the future." Lucy's high blood pressure has risen again. Watching Lucy suddenly lose control of her emotions, Li Xing looked puzzled and puzzled. Faced with the puzzled Li Xing in front of her, Lucy immediately picked up a branch on the roadside and ran to hit Li Xing. Li Xing realized the fluctuation of Lucy's emotions and quickly ran towards the blacksmith shop in the center of the town, ready to seek help from Uncle Turner. And Lucy was chasing after Li Xing from behind, shouting to him, "Don't run, stop me. Don't run, you'll just steal some fun." Chapter 8. Farmer skills similar to gold fingers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the saying goes, those who do not work are not allowed to eat. Not to mention Li Xing, a newly moved out resident. So, after bidding farewell to Lucy, Li Xing was very skilled and helped with the work in the small town's logging farm. "By the way, I would like to ask the logging manager who previously greeted me how to repair my dangerous house." After traveling through time, Li Xing found that while his body's various attributes improved, his speed of learning woodworking skills soared. Thus, in one afternoon, I completed a workload equivalent to one person per day in the logging yard. Due to exceeding the task assigned by the logging farm uncle ahead of schedule. In the spare time, Li Xing sought advice from the uncle of the logging yard on the relevant maintenance skills. The person in charge of the logging farm had a good impression of Li Xing, whom he had seen again, especially admiring his energetic appearance. So much so that from time to time, people would praise Li Xing in front of their colleagues, saying, "He has quite the style of his youth." Observing Li Xing working in his logging yard, the efficiency is comparable to that of a goblin logging machine. In no time, the workload for the day was completed. So I agreed to Li Xing's request to learn maintenance techniques. While studying the maintenance techniques taught by his uncle, Li Xing found that his learning efficiency was also rapidly improving like logging. Li Xing, who couldn't understand, attributed this phenomenon to the buff brought about by the profession of farmers. From being clueless in the early stages to approaching the end, ask corresponding professional technical questions. If it weren't for witnessing Li Xing's progress with his own eyes, the person in charge of the logging factory would have thought that he had been fooled by a clumsy colleague who was exchanging ideas. "Young man, these are the wood you need. Let me confirm again. Are you sure you want to discount most of your salary on these wood materials? It's very difficult for you to repair the house alone. Why don't you take my advice and exchange it for gold coins? After saving a certain amount, hire some workers to help you. This will be much better, thank you very much, uncle. I have a clear understanding of my own psychology, and I can do it alone." After all, the sense of achievement is different when we witness the moment of our completion through our work. "Is that right, uncle?" Faced with Li Xing's response, the logging factory uncle didn't know how to persuade him. "I have to say, young man, you have successfully convinced me. Witnessing the house I built with my own hands, brick by brick, is truly something to be proud of. If you need any help, just let me know. As long as you can work on my logging farm for a few more days like you did today. Of course, the salary remains the same." Li Xing looked at the wood he needed being packaged in a cart and replied, "Uncle, thank you. I will continue to help tomorrow. It will be getting dark soon. See you tomorrow." "Okay. See you tomorrow." Li Xing got into the carriage carrying the goods and, after checking that the goods were loaded, got on and signaled the coachman to drive towards his dangerous house. The location of one's own house is on a high ground 200 to 300 meters away from the town center. Due to the unique terrain, most of the central landscape of Hunter Town can be observed in front of the house. When the freight carriage arrived at his dilapidated house, Li Xing paid a small amount of gold coins from his remaining salary to the coachman. After unloading the goods, bid farewell to the coachman. After seeing no one around, Li Xingxian revealed his happy smile. "Ha ha ha. Li Xing has finally developed." That's right, Li Xing finally waited for his golden finger. When working at the logging farm, Li Xing believed that the changes in his body were the foundation of his foothold in this world. However, as I became more efficient in learning repair techniques, the feeling back then still lingers in my current self. That's like the excitement of a child getting to know the world for the first time. It's a feeling of knowledge flowing through the body and brain like blood. It seems that this knowledge originally existed in the mind, but it was only unlocked through the key of learning. At the end of the study, the sound of prompts in the game sounded in my ears, and I realized how to use repair and construction skills. So, now Li Xing picked up the handmade hammer borrowed from the lumberyard uncle with his right hand, place wood in the hallway and hold bundles of wood with your left hand. Then, he stood in front of his own house, set the house as a target, and started repairing it with a hand hammer. Touch. With a loud sound, Li Xing saw the house in front of him light up with a blood bar, or progress bar. MD, that's really what I thought. That's right, the so-called golden finger is the manifestation of one's profession's abilities in the game. And my profession is a farmer. In the game of Warcraft, farmers building and repairing is just a simple matter of swinging a hammer. And just like in the game, I mechanically swung a handmade hammer and started repairing my house. I'm really tired. As the wood on Li Xing's left hand was depleted, he immediately sat on the ground. Li Xing found that his professional abilities are good, but there are also shortcomings. Through my own practice in repairing, I have come to the conclusion that the skill of repairing the void only depends on the amount of hammering, not the force output by my own hammering. The most representative example is that the repair progress of one's own heavy hammer strike is the same as that of one's own light hammer strike. But the difference is that one can use the hammer to lightly touch without any progress, which requires one to control the progress points of each hammer strike with different strengths. This kind of exploration consumes a lot of energy, and as the progress bar progresses, the wood held in one's left hand will also be consumed in one's arms, which will affect the subsequent maintenance rhythm. Afterwards, Li Xing attempted to stack the wood next to his left hand and simply attached it to the pile with his left hand. With the swing of his right hand, the skill of repairing the void is also activated, resulting in a decrease in the amount of wood on his left side and a significant improvement in work efficiency. In this way, the finer the control of the force of the hammer's light strike, the faster the frequency of the hammer's strike. By the time half of the wood was consumed, the entire house had already been renovated, and the sound of completing the repair task sounded in my mind. Looking at the small wooden house in front of me and my tightly fitted doors and windows, Li Xing's sense of achievement also emerged as previously mentioned. Due to the golden finger, my sense of achievement is not as abundant as expected. For this regret, Li Xing himself doesn't think there is anything to be disappointed with. After all, satisfying the material foundation is the top priority for oneself at present. Looking at the remaining wood piled up in front of the door, Li Xing tidied it up again to the side. Prepare yourself to master more technology in the future and then build some buildings or items that you want. After tidying up, the sun had already set, and the moonlight hanging in the sky had already sprinkled on this land. Standing outside the repaired cottage, watching the smoke and gas floating above the buildings in the town center. The feeling of hunger first appeared on one's own body after traveling. Feeling the desire to eat in my body, I didn't feel too flustered psychologically. After all, the changes in body health after crossing have become increasingly apparent. So, he put down the utensils in his hand, took the newly made long stick, and walked towards the small tavern on the west side of the town. Chapter 9. The Things in the Tavern. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A bright moon in the sky illuminated Hunter Town at night. In the small tavern on the west side of the town, Angie Turner held the beer in her hand and looked silently at the young hunters surrounding her. In the past, it was supposed to be time for me to enjoy the wine, but today I am surrounded by the young people in the town. Its purpose is naturally to inquire about the story of Li Xing. Since Alex came to find him, the young people in the village seem to have become nervous. Everyone came to inquire about Li Xing's background. Uncle Turner, you can't let that little white face just move into our town like this. That's right, Uncle Turner. From my perspective, that little white-faced person must have caused a lot of promiscuous debts outside before coming to our village for refuge. We must protect the girls in our town from harm in the future. That's right, it makes a lot of sense. Judging from his appearance, it's also very likely that he was an undercover agent planted by bandits in our town. That's right, that's right. Times and I heard many young people in front of me constantly splashing dirty water and groping in the dark at Li Xing. Unable to bear these wild hysterical thoughts, Angelina finally couldn't bear it anymore. Angry, Angelina slammed the wooden wine glass in front of her nose onto the table, angrily facing the young leader. Enough. Alex. You and your friends are like underage children. What did I say wrong? Look at yourself. Saying you are descendants of Hunter Town, I feel ashamed. Looking at the young man in front of me preparing to refute. Uncle Turner interrupted directly. I know you are wary of the sudden emergence of outsiders, but is our Hunter Town so indiscriminately rejecting outsiders' miscellaneous matters? You often say that you are proud to be a member of Hunter Town. Your pride is so narrow. You cannot even take the initiative to get to know each other, just follow your instincts and reject them. What is the difference between you and immature little brats like this? But Uncle Turner. When the leading young man is about to say something. At this moment, the door of the tavern was pushed open. The person who entered the door was undoubtedly the source of people's previous arguments. Li Xing. Boss. Are you there? I want to eat. As soon as he entered the door, Li Xing saw himself being watched by the whole tavern. Among them are many people I just met today. Good evening everyone. I'm just here to buy some food and cushion my stomach. You don't have to worry about me, keep going. Haha, feeling the inexplicable silence of the entire tavern, Li Xing could only awkwardly joke. Due to his strong sense of hunger, Li Xing could only grit his head and slowly walk towards the bar in the tavern, facing the discomfort of people staring around him. Immediately, Li Xing placed the few scattered silver coins in his hand on the bar counter. Boss, that's all I have. You. Just watch and give me something to eat. As long as you're full. Looking at the few scattered silver coins. The boss's gaze unconsciously turned towards Uncle Turner in the distance. After seeing Uncle Turner nod his head to signal. The tavern owner said to Li Xing. Young man. This is a tavern and theoretically, food is not served. However, since you are new here, I will fulfill your request today. You can only give you a few hard black bread with this little silver coin, don't think too much about the rest. After hearing this, Li Xing didn't care about what the food was like. Now he only cares about whether he can immediately satisfy his strong desire to eat. So he responded to the tavern owner. Okay. Boss. Thank you very much, but I'm really hungry now. Can you give me a glass of clean water? The tavern owner was about to nod in response when suddenly a complete gold coin flew towards him. With his instincts and physical habits, the boss casually grabbed the flying gold coins in the air. Then, he looked in the direction where the gold coins were flying. At this moment, the young man beside him looked at his companion in surprise and said. Alex. What are you? The young man beside him interrupted his companion's question and explained to the boss. Boss. This gold coin is meant to treat this newcomer to a feast, so there's no need to change the rest. Serve as this newcomer's wine money. No matter how good our Hunter Town is, it's not enough to make our own people unable to eat enough. After hearing these words, both the boss and Uncle Turner nodded in satisfaction. Then, the boss looked at Li Xing and joked, You're really lucky, someone has paid for your expenses now. Before Li Xing could reply, he opened the inner door behind the counter and started preparing food for him. Seeing the scene just now and the joke from the tavern owner, Li Xing expressed his gratitude to the young man in the crowd who was called Electrolux. Ilex, thank you. I was so busy today that I almost forgot to eat. Although I don't have any money on me now, I will repay you. After I finish my meal, it's good. You just need to wait for me for a while. Don't say much, go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. I'm really hungry now. Standing aside, witnessing what had just happened with her own eyes, Angelina said to the leader in the crowd with satisfaction. I have to say, Alex, what happened just now has greatly changed my view of you. I always thought you were still as stubborn as a child, but your behavior just now has shown me the pride and courage that a man in Hunter Town should have. The young man in the crowd replied, I have always been proud to be a member of Hunter Town, and the pride of our Hunter Town men is never narrow-minded or cheap. That's right, Alex is right. I think the same way. That's right, me too. Me too. Times and watching the men in front of him and his peers suddenly surge in emotions, Li Xing felt a wave of doubt. At this moment, the tavern owner walked over from the inner room carrying food. Boss, are there any activities in the town recently? Why are everyone so excited? It's okay, don't worry about them. Young man, this is your dinner. Hurry up and eat it, I see your saliva is almost overflowing. The boss chuckled and pushed the plate and some soup to Li Xing. Eat it, take it if it's not enough. Okay, you're welcome. Subsequently, it was Li Xing who, like a starving ghost possessed, began to greedily eat in large bites. Looking at Li Xing's eating habits, even the tavern owner couldn't help but swallow his saliva. I'm still thinking to myself, is the food I made so delicious? Did I make a mistake? MD, no way. Show uncle that I'm hungry. A person's appetite can really be transmitted to others. The result is that after serving the dishes, the boss also started eating in the inner room. Chapter 10. Little White Face. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After a rough meal, Li Xing drank all the beer in his glass and let out a burp. Boss, thank you very much. I'm full now. Your craftsmanship is great, especially your honey bread, which reminds me of the taste in the bakery in my hometown. After the tavern owner finished tidying up the utensils, he smiled. You're really capable, young man. This is the first time I've seen you spend a few coins like this at a tavern. However, I think you have someone else to thank even more. Li Xing let out a faint smile and said, I know, it's going to be over now. But I still have to say something, I'm causing you trouble. The tavern owner just responded with a smile. Encouraged by the boss's smile, Li Xing stood up and walked towards a group of young people in the tavern. The young people in the tavern naturally noticed Li Xing's movements. Alex, look. The young man named Alex turned his head to look at Li Xing. Do you need? The young man next to him was about to say something when he was stopped by Alex's gesture. So, the young people at the table were all staring at Li Xing who was coming towards them. Feeling the people in the tavern, they once again collectively looked at themselves. Li Xing's heart kept drumming once again. I look a bit ordinary. Although in this world, the faces of Easterners are indeed rare. But these people are too enthusiastic, aren't they? Li Xing said in his heart. At this moment, I suddenly understood the world before crossing over. Why did foreigners always care about being watched by the collective gaze of the Chinese people in their early days in China? This feeling of being projected by the eyes of the group is really unstoppable without any psychological quality. So, in the environment where the group is watching, Li Xing stepped forward and greeted the crowd with a simple clasped fist salute. Good evening everyone. My name is Li Xing, and I just moved into Hunter Town today. I live in a small wooden house on the slope north of the town center, but I am currently renovating my house and cannot entertain everyone. When the house is finished, welcome everyone to come and play in my small house. After speaking, he saluted Uncle Turner alone with a fist in his arms. Uncle Turner simply raised his glass and signaled, then started drinking alone. After a simple signal to Uncle Turner, Li Xing walked towards the location of Alex in the tavern. Hello, Alex. Nice to meet you. I am Li Xing. Thank you very much for your urgent action just now, which brought me back to normal from hunger. While expressing gratitude, Li Xing extended his right hand over. Alex, who had been sitting at the table all along, went from watching Li Xing get up to greeting Uncle Turner in his speech just now, as well as the unintentional act of wiping his clothes with his right hand when talking to him. These images and details are imprinted in my mind, indicating that the man in front of me sincerely respects me. So, the young man named Alex also extended his right hand and held it towards the waiting right hand. After a simple handshake, Electrolux gestured for his companion to stand up and make room. After vacating the space, Electrolux patted the seat next to him and said to Li Xing, sit down. It wasn't until Li Xing took his seat that Alex began to explain the reason for his action. Don't thank me. Since Uncle Turner admits that you are a new member of Hunter Town, helping you is the responsibility of our young hunters in Hunter Town. Besides, I have also experienced situations of hunger, which is really uncomfortable. Li Xing listened to the words of Alex next to him and constantly observed the young man speaking in front of him. In Li Xing's opinion, Electrolux is indeed young. He has long brown hair draped over his shoulders, and his facial skin may appear rough due to his profession, but his entire facial features are distinct and full of charm. His dense beard is an important feature that distinguishes him from the young people on this table. If asked for Li Xing's evaluation, it would be that Electrolux looks very much like Solon Oak Shield in The Hobbit. Unlike the characters in the drama, Alex is a human dressed in linen and of normal height. The others on the side impatiently interjected as they looked at Li Xing's gaze at Alex. "Hey! Little Bai Lian, what else do you want to do with us, the leader of Electrolux?" Toy boy Li Xing asked in confusion. "Yes. Little Bai Lian. Didn't you say who else could you say?" This title stunned Li Xing. But after looking around, I also understood this statement. The people in the tavern, due to their profession or personal reasons, if it weren't for their thick body hair. Alex, if it weren't for the ups and downs. Uncle Turner, the boss, and everyone else, either it's the dark skin. The young hunter on the table except for himself. And because I have just crossed over, and before crossing over, I rarely go out to expose myself to the sun. Even the most difficult job of screwing screws used to be in factories where the sun could not destroy them. Due to the long-term habit of applying skincare and moisturizing honey cream in the Central Plains region, as well as genetic factors, changes in the body after travel, and shaving habits, I still have smooth and fair skin and sparse body hair in this world. Therefore, although her face may not be as good as Snow White in fairy tales in the eyes of people here, it is not much worse than the little white face they believe loves to eat soft rice. After understanding these, Li Xing understood and ignored this title. If it weren't for listening to Uncle Turner's advice, you would be a traveler from another continent. I thought you were a young master who escaped from that noble family. Alex added his own opinion on the side. Over. Li Xing responded with a smile and then looked at everyone's table. Do you just drink like this when you usually drink? Isn't there any entertainment? Another young man next to Electrolux said. Why not? I was just talking about you before. It's just that your arrival interrupted our conversation. Seeing the other party so straightforward, Li Xing was quite surprised and prepared to take the initiative to inquire about their previous discussion results. Me. What do I have to discuss? Didn't I tell Uncle Turner? My hometown comes from a place not far from Pandaria. I'm just a traveler on a trip. I've traveled a lot and settled down here to live. Speaking of this, Li Xing asked, what do you have that you don't understand? You can also ask me. After hearing Li Xing's words on the table, everyone couldn't help but feel their thirst for knowledge. A young man in hunting gear asked, are you sent by bandits to undercover our town? Ah. What is Pandaria? Is it far from the kingdom of Stormwind? Are you a nobleman of Pandaria? Asked another young man. This. Did you come to our hunter town to avoid trouble because you caused some promiscuous dead outside? What the hell are these problems? Li Xing really didn't know where to start roast after hearing about them. He looked at the crowd in shock for a moment, speechless. What is this all about?